Hi everybody, this is Manju from Ayurhitam. Hope you're having a great week so far. I'm here again to bring another interesting topic, weight management through Ayurveda. Notice that I did not say weight loss through Ayurveda, but it's weight management through Ayurveda. That's important. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Again, as usual, even though we're going to be talking about weight loss, which is the topic that we chose for today, you're more than welcome to ask any questions related to Ayurveda. So I'll be able to answer those questions as well. Thank you for those that joined. So we'll quickly get started. So what is the ideal weight? And there are many theories out there about ideal weight, about good BMI. There's many theories out there. And the weight loss gyms, fad diets, and liposuction, they have been the huge industries in our current generation. This usually is because we're all, as a generation, led to believe that there is a standard weight all of us must fit into that category. And because of that notion, we want to get to that perfect zero size or perfect figure. And in my humble opinion, that's why these industries are on the rise. But how many of you have felt deprived of energy after losing weight with fad diets or liposuction or any of those diets that give you promise that you can lose weight immediately? I mean, you might feel light immediately, you might feel better immediately, but then is that sustained? Is the energy sustained over a period of time? That's questionable. Again, you have to understand our body has a unique blueprint. And that's given to us at birth with a different combination of 5 elements. And because of this combination, we have a unique constitution. And depending on our constitution, certain type of weight, certain amount of weight is unique to us. Certain amount of weight is going to be appropriate for us. So I want you to think about that we should not be, it's not necessary that we must all fit in one size. We must all have one perfect size. We must all strive to get to a size that we are comfortable with, that is appropriate for us. So I want to start out this talk with that important information, with that profound information, that you must decide what is ideal for you according to your own constitution. Yeah. So again, we know that if there is too much weight, there's going to be an overload on your tissues. There's going to be overload on your vital organs. And if there is too less of a load, then the protective layer that you have around is lost, which means you are more prone to any external forces. You're more prone to diseases. So finding the balance is what is important, not just weight loss, but finding the balance. So let's find out what are the causes for this imbalance. What are the causes that there might be weight gain or not correct weight, right? The first one is Agni, which is our digestive fire. It's the most important one. So this is the one that will decide the weight of our Agni. Any conversion that needs to happen in our body is because of this digestive fire. I mean, in Western terms, you can say these are the enzymes, but any raw material that you give food to your body, and that is converted into your own tissues, into your own dhatus. Your body is made from food, and that conversion needs to happen. Like I'm talking to you right now, and you're trying to understand what I'm trying to speak. That conversion needs to happen. For that conversion to happen, Agni must be at its balance. It must be at its appropriate quantity. If that does not work properly, let's understand what happens. Then you're giving the input, the raw material is inputted as food, but this raw material is not digested. It stays in the body as undigested waste. So, because it is staying as undigested waste, it forms a layer. And if the phenomena continues, then there's going to be layer on layer on layer. So there's going to be multiple layers of undigested food that is stored in the body, right? And this blocks the channels because this is thick, it is strong, and it is thick. It blocks mainly your fat tissue, which is your fourth tissue that gets formed after the food is digested. So what happens is this might block your fat tissue, which is in your abdominal region, mostly in your abdominal region. It blocks that area. So because it is blocked, the phenomena that is explained in Ayurveda is that there are 7 tissues, and fat tissue is the fourth tissue. Each tissue, once it is digested, it helps digesting the next tissue. Because this is all stuck here, the undigested food is stuck here, the remainder of the tissues are not digested properly, which are your bones, your bone marrow, your reproductive juices. They're not digested properly. They're not nourished properly. So you feel weak. Even though you're giving raw materials, you're giving food, you are feeling hunger, but because the food is not being digested and because the remaining of the tissues are not being nourished properly, you feel weak in spite of giving good raw materials. So, and when the block happens, the air that is moving freely cannot move freely. What it does is it keeps on firing, the air keeps on blowing. And because this air is blowing in your abdomen, what it does is it also blows your fire that's there, your digestive fire that's there. Every time the digestive fire keeps blowing, you have that feeling of hunger. So you feel hungry, you eat. Then whatever you eat becomes this fat tissue. The circle, the vicious circle keeps continuing. This is again mainly because of your weak Agni. Mainly because of your weak digestive fire that was not able to digest your food that you gave earlier. What causes this Agni to go wrong, right? The nourishment to Agni is food itself. So at one point of time, if you have given less food, then it can diminish your fire. That's one reason. And if you have given food frequently, then that means you're overworking your Agni. That can also diminish your fire because it cannot work anymore. Or if you're giving heavy foods, if you're giving very strong heavy foods, oily foods, then also it's a very, very strong raw material. That heavy load your Agni cannot handle, and that can also diminish your Agni, your digestive fire. So if this phenomena keeps happening, what happens is you can then not even digest the easiest of the foods. Even you give the easiest of the foods, that will still become undigested toxin. Another reason could be because there's no exercise, because exercise is one of the reasons where there's movement, where the digestion can happen properly. One more thing could be if you're sleeping more during daytime. If you're sleeping at daytime, then there is a lot of stability that is in the body, and mucus increases in the body, and oily content also increases in the body. Another reason could be drinking excess water. I know this is a biggest cause also. A lot of times you drink water thinking that you want to flush away toxins, but understand that this water must be digested also. If you're drinking a lot of water and if it doesn't get digested, it stays in the body. So that can be another cause as well. Another thing could be drinking alcohol. That's one more cause. And one more biggest thing that I wanted to bring upon is the fad diets. Wanting to lose weight, we are looking for so many things, so many different things that are coming on the web. And now that we're on the web all the time, there's so many promising things that we see on the web that tells us follow this diet and you will lose weight immediately. So we will quickly move to that diet because we're in that desperate situation that we want to lose weight or we want to maintain the weight, and we forget all the diet that we have been doing all these years and quickly switch to this new diet. It's like you are using an Apple phone, but someone told you that Samsung charger will charge it properly, will give it good charge, and you're trying to charge it with a Samsung phone. Your Apple phone does not know how to function with that Samsung charger. So that's exactly what happens with your fire. Your fire does not know what to do with this new type of files that you're giving it. Then it gives up. And anytime you take any fad diet, any diet that you're changing to, you must notice that of course you will probably lose weight immediately, but it is difficult. It's very, very difficult to sustain it throughout. So I would want to choose a diet that has been there for 5,000 years and that has been time tested, and want to follow that. Again, childhood obesity is also on the rise. That's because of sedentary life that we've been following. So making sure that there's some kind of movement and there's not a lot of sedentary life also is something that you have to look at. Now that we have looked at what is it that causes this problem, we'll look at factors to overcome. What is it that we need to do, right? So we know that food is the raw material that we give to the body, and that is the way that our tissues are made up of. But food is only one of the 4 sources of energy. There are other sources of energy too. You have to make sure you tap into the other sources of energy. The other source of energy is sleep, making sure that you're getting good sleep so that you're tapping that energy source. Another source of energy is breathing. You're making sure that you're using your good lung capacity and breathing well, using that source of energy. Another source of energy, the 4th source of energy, is meditation. It's not necessary that you're sitting down, closing your eyes and meditating, but you can do anything that makes you meditative, which means you can do any hobby that you have, anything that you like that will take you to that meditative stage. So tapping onto those resources that will help you get energy is also very important. Food is not the only source of energy. So understanding that first, and then making sure you follow the rules when you take food. You must relax when you're taking food. You have to take time and you have to know what you're eating mindfully. When you're doing that, you're automatically giving much more energy with food. If you're eating very fast and if you're not even knowing what you're eating, then that food will not nourish you appropriately like you want it to. If you take time to eat, relax, then that satisfaction itself will help you eat less quantity. Try it for yourself. Do not take my word for it, but try it and then tell me if that really worked or not. Relaxing, knowing what you're eating will definitely bring you satisfaction and good energy. Another thing is to definitely eat only 3 meals a day, which is following the rule of light breakfast, heavy lunch, making sure that when the sun is at its peak, eat your heavy lunch, and light dinner. And dinner could be, you can use any kind of soups for dinner. That will be best. And making sure that you eat your dinner early on, like by 6:37 you're finished with your dinner, you're done with your dinner. Eating small frequent meals is not allowed at all. understand what happens when you eat small, frequent meals, right? Your fire that comes up is only digesting that food that you're eating. It's not able to go to that reserves that you have for a longer time. So it's digesting the food all the time. If you give time in between, then your fire will have chance to digest the old files, right? Intermittent fasting. This is something that a lot of people have been talking about. Ayurveda has spoken about it 5,000 years ago also. Intermittent fasting. You can skip a meal, skip a lunch, or skip dinner. Skipping a dinner is the best. When you skip that, like we spoke about earlier, instead of digesting the food that you ate, the Agni, the digestive fire, will burn the reserves that you have, because there's a sequential action of Agni that happens. It first digests the food that you eat. Once there is no food for it to digest, then it goes and digests the reserves that are there, the old files, the undigested food that has been there. If it is done with digesting the undigested food, then it goes and digests the dhatus, your own tissues. So there's a fine line between digesting your undigested food and going to your dhatus. So you have to know how much fasting you're doing. Doing a lot more will harm your tissues. So maintaining that fine line, just skipping a dinner in between, like in 2 to 3 days, making sure that some old files are cleaned up, then eat normal meal, then follow this cycle. This is how you must do your intermittent fasting. Then you will be able to sustain it for a longer time. And another thing that you want to do is make sure that you include good digestive spices. Good digestive spices are something that are available in your kitchen. It's not necessary just the cumin, coriander that you have. You can use basil, you can use parsley, whatever digestive spice is not very spicy to your tongue, but it is able to digest your food, like cumin, coriander, fennel. Use these in your foods. Another most important thing that you have to follow with your food is to make sure that your food has good life force. Make sure it is fresh. If the food is fresh and warm, then it will give you good satisfaction. Then you don't have to eat a bigger quantity. So make sure that you're eating food that is warm, light, but most importantly, fresh, so that you don't have to eat bigger quantity to feel satisfied. So that's about food. And you're more than welcome to ask me any questions in between. I'll answer all the questions at the end. Yeah, and it's I'll go on with other factors that are necessary, but you can go ahead and ask me any questions that I have spoke about so far, and I'll be able to address them. And the next thing that you would want to do is exercise. That's most definitely true, and all of us know that this is most importantly true. Make sure that you start slow. You do not have to hike Mission Peak like in one day. Start with slow steps. Do just walking, how much ever you can do, and start with half your capacity. Half your capacity is when you start breathing from your mouth and when you start sweating from your forehead and sweating in your armpits. That's when you stop the first day and build upon it. Your capacity will increase. So this slow, steady, but disciplined approach is very much important than doing a lot of workout in one day. Because if you do a lot of workout one day, then your air element in the body increases. Vata increases in the body. You cannot sustain it for a longer time because you feel tired. So doing slow but steady exercise is very important. Excessive exercise leads to vata, and if there is a lot of air element, that also causes a lot of dilation, and it could also feel like you have increased in size. So making sure you do correct amount of exercise, but every day without fail. For females, make sure that you don't do during your cycle days. But other than that, make sure you do it on empty stomach. Do your exercise every day. Another thing is Udvartana, which is told in Ayurveda also, which is dry scrubbing your whole body with powders. You can use any powder. You can use like chickpea flour, or if you're able to get Triphala powder, you can get Triphala powder. And take that powder, you can apply just a small layer of oil on your body just before shower, and you're going to really rub all the parts of your body, especially where there is a lot of fat storage on your abdomen, on your thigh region. Wherever there is excessive fat storage, really dry scrub it with the powder so that the fats that are stuck in that area, you're able to move them, and you will give them a chance to move and help them go out of the body. So this dry scrubbing is very, very effective as well. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is barley soups. If you're trying very hard to reduce weight, barley soups will help you very much, because it feels heavy to digest, but it is also drying at the same time. So your tissues will feel like, it's like if you imagine a stick, a wooden stick that is soaked in water for a longer time, how it loses its shape. That's how your tissues will feel like if they are soaked in water for a long time, in mucus for a long time. If that is what the causative factor is. Knowing the causative factor is very important. So we spoke about all the causative factors. If that is the case, then make sure that you include barley in your diet so that it will suck away all the water, excess water in the body, and it will give stiffness and shape and form to your tissues again. You can use barley in the form of barley soups. You can use the barley flour and make rotis, make tortillas out of the barley. That's one way you can use that. And one more thing that you can use is mung soup, mung beans. You can soak the mung beans, cook them in water, like 1:6 ratio of water. Cook them and filter the water. Mash the mung, filter the water, and use this water. You can season the water. You can add whatever spices you want to this water. You can add salt to that water. You can add a little bit of spices to that water. You can even put some seasoning to that water and drink that water. That can be used during your intermittent fasting days where you're not eating a meal, but you're substituting your meal with this mung water. That will help scrape off excess water. It will give you energy so that you can sustain when you're fasting, but it will also help scrape off fat. And one more thing that you can do is sipping warm water only. Don't drink lots of water, but sip warm water. And another thing that you can do is honey is a good scraper of fat. In the morning, I know a lot of people drink warm water with lemon and honey. Instead of adding honey to warm water, I have discussed in many of my posts that you should never add honey to warm water. What you have to do is you have to reduce the water to half. Bring it to room temperature. Reduce the water to half by boiling it. Bring it to room temperature, and then add honey to it and drink it. You can add just a little bit of lemon to it too. That's fine. Again, make sure that there's no heat causing problems that you're suffering from. Then you can add a little bit of lemon to that and add honey to it. So you can reduce like 1 glass of water to half a glass, or 2 glasses to 1 glass, 1 cup, and add 1 teaspoon of honey in the morning. Start with that, and you can slowly increase it to 2 teaspoons of honey. This will really help you make sure that there's scraping of fat that happens. So these are few techniques that you can do at home, but making sure that you are following the diet regimen and lifestyle regimen is very important. You can always work with a practitioner to understand what is the causative factor behind the increase in weight. Again, making sure that you're not overdoing and you're not straining your tissues is very important. Balance is important. You can work with a practitioner so that you can be on certain herbs to digest the undigested toxins that have been there for a longer time, and you can build upon your own routine that you can do, your own diet and lifestyle that you can do. So you can do that, or make sure you follow all of these and let me know how that works for you. I hope that this was beneficial to you and you can utilize this for your daily life. I have a question here, and you can definitely start asking me questions. May I know which timings are better to eat food in intermittent fasting? I'm eating at 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. Sure. So you can definitely have, if you have hunger in the morning, you can have a glass of milk, warm milk with some spices in it. That can be your breakfast. And eat a good lunch at 11 and eat at 6 p.m. You can eat anything. It's not necessary that you have to restrict to certain foods only when you're doing that. You can use any foods that are wholesome, that are cooked, and that are warm foods. Always make sure that there are 6 tastes that are in the foods. So making sure that there is good amount of grains, making sure that there is good amount of vegetables in there. Grains should be the bigger portion. Then you have vegetables, and you can have a soup, some water content that you're taking along with the food. So if you have, and food is always cooked with good fats like ghee or coconut oil. It has to be cooked with good fats. You're taking that fats also, and you can take some ghee along with food, because only if you take it with good fats is when the food can be broken down properly, the food can be digested properly. So make sure you do that. And at 6 p.m. you can either have your regular meal depending upon how much hunger you have, or you can switch that to having either barley soup, barley roti, or mung soup, anything of that sort. So following that, you're making sure that you are getting whatever you need during that time, and you have the time from 6 p.m. to next morning for your digestive fire to work on the old files that are there. I hope that was beneficial. If any of you have any further questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And again, it's not necessary that the questions have to be related to the topic. If you have any other questions not related to the topic as well, I'll be happy to answer them. So I have a message saying, when is the best time for barley soup? I've just mentioned that right now. You can do that at night as your dinner, or you can do that as your lunch as well. Or if you're eating as a snack in between, you can make it as a snack in between. You will be the judge of your digestive fire, and you use it accordingly, according to your hunger. But you can switch that to your dinner. That will be best. You can do that. Can I eat fruits along with cooked food in dinner? Absolutely not. Because again, fruits are raw. They're not cooked. And food is cooked. They have some amount of fire in them. So just like different solvents are needed for digesting, for dissolving different chemicals. If you're doing a lab experiment, you know that different solvents are needed for different chemicals to be dissolved. Just like that, our body releases different enzymes to cook different types of food. If it's cooked food, there is some type of enzymes that it releases. If it is raw food, there's a different kind of enzymes that it releases. It will be confused and it will only release one kind. So either your cooked food will be digested, or your raw food or your fruit will be digested. Anything that is not digested will stay back fermented in the body and stay back as undigested food. So it's very important that you keep a gap between your food that you're eating and any raw food or your fruits that you're eating. Fruits must not be combined with food, and again, fruits must not be combined with your milk also. That's very, very important. Again, the incompatible foods, I've spoken a lot in my posts in the past. You can check the incompatible foods also in my posts. Those must be avoided, so that your fire will not be abused. To keep your fire strong, you must stay away from incompatible food. Good. So if that's all the questions that you have, I hope this was beneficial. Can I skip cooked food and eat only fruits for dinner? Actually, Sri Lakshmi, fruits are heavier, contrary to a lot of things that a lot of people think, because they have a lot of mucus in them. They have a lot of water content in them, and when they go inside, your digestive fire must cook them before it gets digested. So it's best to eat cooked food, eat soups. It's best to eat soups than to eat fruits for you to maintain weight, or even otherwise. I would not recommend you to replace fruits with your meal. You can eat fruits. Fruits are tasty, but you don't have to eat fruits for maintaining your health. It's not necessary. Eating cooked foods is always best for your digestive fire. You can keep fruits for your snack, like sometime in between, like at about 4 p.m. And again, eating sweet fruits is recommended. A lot of times sour fruits have a lot of fire element in them, which is not so good for a lot of our conditions that we're facing right now. A lot of blood problems I've seen are increased with a lot of sour fruits. So you can eat sweet variety of fruits, but eat it away from meals, eat it away from milk, and you can eat it as a snack. Do you have weight management for arthritis? Definitely. So again, if there is arthritis, there's many different varieties of arthritis that are present. It could be because of increase in the vata, which is when there is synovial fluid that is lost, then there could be arthritis. Or if there is a lot of undigested food that is stuck there, that can cause arthritis too. There's rheumatoid arthritis, there's osteoarthritis, there's different types of arthritis that's present. So if you're talking about psoriatic arthritis, yes, definitely. So that means that we know that doshas, or the undigested food, have found a place. Usually what happens is, if the undigested food just stays in the body, it will not do anything unless it finds a weak spot. So it finds a weak spot and it wants to make it its home. And when it makes its home, it wants to show its symptom. It wants to show its face. That's really what happens when it goes into a disease. You will not see, it will not come overnight. It is all these years of diet and lifestyle that we have done that has increased these undigested toxins, and they have found a weak spot. And when you're saying arthritis and psoriatic arthritis, it has found the weak spot of your bones, and it has found the weak spot of skin as well. So understanding the weak spot, finding out the causative factors, addressing it that way is important. But it has taken so many years for this to manifest. So it requires diet and lifestyle correction and Ayurvedic herbs also. Definitely possible. So there are panchakarma treatments where a full-on cleansing is possible. That cleansing is needed. It's like cleansing your whole house at once. You're making sure that each and every corner is addressed. That full-on type of cleansing is necessary for that type of conditions, and that's possible in Ayurveda. My next live session, Sri Lakshmi. So usually I have been doing, ever since the lockdown started, I have been doing Friday 5:30. Most of the times, that's when I have been doing my live sessions. I come on here with a different topic each time, and then also take on any regular questions that you might have. It's not necessary that it has to be on the topic. I just come here so that I can address any general questions that you might have on health and general questions that you might have on Ayurveda. So I just come here to address those questions. So again, 5:30, Friday 5:30 p.m. is usually my live sessions. I hope that answered your question, Trishna Dubey. And if nobody has any questions, we can see you all. How about diabetes, weight management, and curing diabetes? Yeah, yes, Friday 5:30 p.m. PST, Sri Lakshmi, correct. Aruna Thakur, yes. So again, diabetes, weight management is, it has gone through all the phenomena we just spoke about. It is, again, your tissues. Ayurveda has 20 different types of diabetes that they spoke about. They spoke about extensively what causative factor will cause which type of diabetes. I know right now when we say diabetes, we see sugar as an enemy. And we eat a lot of bitter things, thinking that there's a lot of sugar in the body and bitter will combat that sugar and take care of diabetes. I know a lot of people drinking only Karela juices in the morning, thinking that that will help with diabetes. Unfortunately, that is only partially true. There is diabetes that is caused because of excessive air element in the body, and that will increase with increase in the bitter taste also. So understanding what has caused it and taking care of it is absolutely possible. But then again, it depends on how long you have been you have had this condition and addressing it that way. It depends on whether curing is possible or maintaining is possible. If Ayurveda has also mentioned that depending on the length of the disease, we can say whether the disease is curable, maintainable, or non-curable. So we'll categorize that in our first, usually in my first meeting. That's how I categorize it and address it in such way. It's not like we give false promises saying that everything is treatable and everything is manageable. But we definitely will take care of the situation. Addressing your causative factors will make sure that you will see a change for sure. But curing it completely depends upon your compliance of diet and lifestyle, depends upon your compliance of herbs. Yeah, so that's definitely possible. According to Ayurveda, undigested food is the cause for most of the diseases. Absolutely true. Undigested food and Agni, the digestive fire, if it's not working properly, then it causes undigested food, and that is definitely the cause for most of the diseases. And there is one more thing which we say, no, Vego Dhirana Dharana is what we say, that if you're suppressing the urges is also one more biggest causative factor for diseases. But undigested food is one of the biggest causative factor for diseases. I would not say that is the causative factor, but that's one of the biggest causative factor, because again, that is the only input that we are giving the body. So it's very, very logical. And Ayurveda is like a manual that is given to us so that we can lead this life. Like when you buy a car, when you buy any of the electronic goods, anything, it comes with a manual how to take care of it. I say because Ayurveda is science of life, it is the manual that is given to us how to take care of our body. So it has given a lot of preventive methods. But because we're very intelligent and smart, we forget that preventive methods, and we indulge in different senses, we indulge in different tastes. Then we end up in problems, we end up in diseases. Ayurveda has then also given different methods of treatment protocols. So it does not stop with prevention. It has extensively given many treatment protocols for a lot of conditions as well. But prevention is definitely the first thing that Ayurveda has given. Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much, Sudakshmi, for joining. And I'm happy that this information has been helping you. Awesome. So thank you so much for joining, everyone. If you have any questions, any other further questions, we're born with certain combination of doshas. Is the goal to balance doshas to go back to what we're born with? Also with pulse, are you able to determine prakriti and vikriti? Very good question, Deepa. Yes, like when we started this talk today, that's how we started our talk with. Yes, we are born with certain combination of doshas, and we are always comfortable going back to what our original constitution is. And you will know what that constitution is. Like your own home is very comfortable for you. Doesn't matter if that's a small house or not as big as your friend's house, which must be very, very big. You will still be very comfortable in your own house. Just like that, you'll be very comfortable in the body that you're used to from birth. So going back to your balance, your constitution is the goal for Ayurveda. Very correctly said. And with pulse, yes, we can determine more of Vikriti. Prakriti can also be said, but mostly Vikriti is seen when you see the pulse. That is most likely seen because it's more superficial, and Vikriti is much more seen with the pulse. Prakriti is a little difficult, I would say, for me, but there are a lot of Ayurvedic physicians that have good siddhi and they're able to find good Prakriti checking the pulse. But Ayurveda is given for Trividha Sishya Buddhi. What they say is it's given for people who are very, very smart, people who are mediumly smart, and people who are dumb. So anybody who falls in these categories can still practice Ayurveda. It has given different tools. You don't have to have like the highest siddhi possible for you to be checking the pulse and for you to be knowing the Prakriti and Vikriti and then practice it. It has given other diagnostic tools like Pratyaksha Pramana, like seeing what's happening, and questionnaire. I can ask a lot of questions depending on what the person is saying, and looking at the person, looking at the dhatus of the person, looking at the complexion of the person. So there's a lot of things that can be seen, and a lot of diagnostic tools are given via Ayurveda. And that's what we use to determine any of the Vikritis that are happening. And going back to Prakriti is the goal. I'm sure you probably have some background of Ayurveda, Deepa Raman. See that you're using the terminology. Glad that you guys have joined and able to relate to the session. So see you all next week. And again, if you have any further questions that are not addressed here, feel free to reach out to me at ayurhitam.com or even Facebook. You can send me a personal message, and I will be I'll try my best to respond back to you for any particular question that you have. See you all at 5:30 next week. You can ask any question answers that you have, and I can just come in here and answer any questions that you might have. Again, thank you so much, and you have a wonderful evening and a great weekend ahead.